Okay, so another question that came in was about jealousy and how to help it. I mentioned referencing when I was talking about jealousy in families. So, this is a really good question because I think paranoia a lot of times is a big issue for officers. And again, anytime you've got a marriage where you potentially have one or both partners that are gone away from the home for long periods of time, both the spouse that's at home might have questions or doubts about the individual officer, but then the officer might have questions about what goes on when they're not there too, right? So, I mean, it can go either way. I think really honestly, when we, again, and I hate to keep referencing this, but when we talk about jealousy tends to arise first and foremost when you don't feel you're connected to the other person. Okay, when you feel that there's a separation, especially if your relationship started really strong and passionately and you were really connected, and then life tries to pull you apart. So it's going to be a natural instinctive desire to keep asking or wondering internally about the state of your relationship because the other person isn't giving you what you need. You're at least not receiving it from them. They may be giving it, but you're not receiving it. Now, that could be an issue on your end that you're just, again, too jealous, too paranoid, right? And so those things need to be worked through, right? And the officer's entire probably perspective lens needs to be looked at. And again, I think it goes all the way from how dysregulated emotionally are they, right, to how exhausted are they, to what kind of, compassion deficits do they have because they're struggling to connect to different levels of emotions. It would tend to indicate they're staying in a fear response. So I think that can be a really good indicator that assistance is needed, to work through some other stuff that's going on behind the scenes. But I would also say that, if they can't shift those gears, then they can't connect to emotions that are necessary to pursue someone else. And the lack of pursuit tends to be oftentimes what leads to jealous feelings. The lack of disconnect is sort of a foundational piece. So I think you have to look at this as a larger treatment issue a lot of times than just focusing on the jealousy that's at play. Because you can tell somebody not to believe something, but it's a feeling, right? Safety's a feeling. Love's a feeling. And fear is a feeling. And so if I just say, hey, it's not what it looks like. Don't worry about it. Well, that's only going to work until the next trigger happens that makes me think the exact same thing again. Sometimes, unfortunately, part of the process is if they've got a legitimate fear, or if they've got a fear, that fear is legitimate. You also have to work them through the process of sort of maybe testing what the dynamics are, or say, look, you need to figure out what's going on in your marriage, I mean, living in the dark isn't necessarily helping. If you need to look at phone records or you need to do whatever, I got to be honest with you as a clinician, I'm a fan of that, right? I'm a fan of if you don't think your partner is being honest and you've got some sort of basis for that, you're not going to be able to let your fear go until you get some information that's going to help you there. If you've addressed your partner with it and they're not responding or they're not talking to you or they're not answering the question, then I think a partner has a responsibility to pursue their partner and find out what they're doing. And unfortunately, sometimes that accountability is the thing that breaks something like that open and actually gets the healing process started. So as opposed to just sitting back and living in abuse or living in some sort of distrust environment where then the result is that partner can never relax either. So they can't engage and reconnect. I mean, the information has to be out there. There has to be some sort of rebalancing of the scales.